So today I'm going to be installing a Cobb SF intake and airbox into my 2013 WRX. The first step is going to be removing the existing intake and airbox. The first step in that is we need to remove the stock cowling that forces the air into this area. The only step in that is removing these two screws here. What you're going to need is a flathead screwdriver, now we're going to remove the air cowling. This is just a one piece, just got those two screws. This back end here has a little scoop that goes into the factory airbox. So what you want to do is just lift up on the front and slide that puppy right out of place. Now we're going to set that safely off to the side. Now we've got this whole area clear here. First thing I want to do is remove the MAF sensor plug. Depress on that, slide it right off the sensor, pull it out of the air box, and safely tuck that down into the engine bay out of the way. Now the next step, we have these hoses here and these hoses here. We want to gently push those out of their clips to free them away. Now, removal of the airbox, removal of the intake tube. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to loosen these two clamps that go around the intake hose. I'm going to go ahead and loosen those with the flathead screwdriver. Now, removal of the airbox. We have two main bolts that are holding the airbox into place. One is right below this point where I'm pointing, that is facing, the bolt is actually facing the front of the vehicle, and then one directly down here, which you're going to need an extension or a long bit for. The size of both of those are 10mm. The first one here, you can use an open-end wrench or a short socket. You have to actually face the head of the socket towards the rear of the vehicle. And that's that bolt. It goes straight down through the collar into the subframe. So now we've got all the bolts out of our box. We've got everything loose. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this tube here. It's usually Now for the airbox. You can keep it together as one piece. It's probably a little easier to remove if you undo the clamps. Spread it into two pieces. The rear piece is going to have this upper hose into a little clamp kit on the side. And also, your MAF sensor wiring goes through another smaller clamp below that. In the front part of the airbox. And the only thing holding those in is this collar that goes straight down through, and this nut on here that goes to the part of the subframe. Now that that's done, your area is clear here, and you are ready for the installation of the intake in the airbox. Okay, now we are ready to install the Cobb SF intake and accommodating airbox. The first thing you're going to want to do is remove the existing MAF sensor from the stock airbox. It was located here with two Phillips head screws that were fairly easy to remove. Once you have that removed, you're going to want to install that into the Cobb MAF bracket. What I've done here is I've assembled the MAF housing. I've installed the MAF sensor with the Cobb provided hardware. I've attached the air filter to the MAF housing, and I've also attached the rubber tubing to the MAF housing, leaving these clamps here fairly loose for the time when it's time to fit it on. I've tightened the air filter onto the MAF housing all the way. So this is already pre-assembled and ready to go. I'm going to set this to the side. Now to install the airbox, first thing you're going to want to do is remove this bolt here that holds the power steering reservoir to the frame here. That is a 10 millimeter bolt. I'm going to use a socket wrench here. Once that bolt is removed, you're going to want to take the Cobb airbox with the U shape facing up, facing towards the intake. Go ahead and tilt it, slide it into place. Now when you do so, you want to make sure that the MAF sensor plug and wire loom goes below the airbox. There's a little notch in the back corner here on the bottom that the loom fits easily through. Place that on the inside of the box. You want to take the 16 millimeter long 10 millimeter bolt that Cobb provides and place it through the back corner bracket of the airbox, through the bracket for the power steering reservoir. Then you want to take the Cobb provided second brass color 16 millimeter long 10 millimeter bolt with the plastic washer on it and the accommodating nut. And that's going to go through the front mounting hole here. You want to make sure that the front plate of the airbox is on the front side of the mounting clip that's located right behind the headlight. You want to place the bolt with the washer on it facing towards the rear of the car so that the nut is placed on the inside and easily accessible. Now take the 20 millimeter long 10 millimeter bolt with plastic washer on it. That's going to go down here into the subframe with your MAF mounting bracket. You're going to take this edge and slide it under the airbox lip, place this hole in the MAF bracket, line it up with the hole for the airbox underneath, and then take your bolt and place it down Now you're going to take your 10mm socket with extension, and you're going to go ahead and tighten this bolt that goes down. Once that's nice and tight, then you want to take your shorter socket or open end wrench, 10mm, go ahead and tighten this back bracket here. And for this front one, you can use an open end to hold the head end of the bolt and a socket 10mm on the back end to go ahead and tighten up that guy. Now our airbox and our MAF sensor bracket, mounting bracket, are both installed here and secure. I'm now going to take the intake assembly with this end. I'm going to fit it under these hoses here. So once you've taken your assembled intake and placed it over the intake here, have everything nice and lined up, you should have your two mounting holes attached to the air filter lined up with your MAF mounting bracket, one bolt on each side of here. What we're going to do is we're going to take these two bolts. There's our 10mm long 8mm head with the block washer and washer on each one. I'm going to take each one and go ahead and finger tighten it through the MAF mounting bracket into the air filter. Once you have those threaded through the holes, then you want to take your flat-headed screwdriver and go ahead and tighten down each of these clamps. Ensure a nice tight fit on either of those. Then you want to take your 8mm socket. Go ahead and tighten up both of these 8mm bolts here. Once both of those are nice and tight, then you want to take your MAF sensor plug, go ahead and plug it back into the MAF sensor. Now this is all tight and assembled, this is all tight and assembled, you're all plugged back in. So now we've got our assembled intake installed, MAF sensor plugged in, everything tight and secure. The next step before we cover the airbox up is you're going to take your stock intake cowling and take this fitted end here that fit right into the stock airbox and go ahead and fit it right into the Cobb airbox. let's go ahead and just set that in there, but leave it loose for now. You're going to take your Cobb Airbox cover plate and take that and line that up with the mounting holes. You're going to take your very small provided Allens with plastic washer, 4 of them, and go ahead and tighten those loosely into the mounting holes. Once you've got that mounted there, you want to take your provided Allen wrench and go ahead and tighten up these 4 bolts. Once all 4 of those are cinched down nice and tight, everything's nice and tight, you're going to take your factory clips that were removed from the front of this cowling. You're going to line that up with the mounting holes. Go ahead and place those back into the stock mounting holes in the front cross member. And that's it. The Cobb SF intake and airbox are now completely installed, completely fastened down. Now on to the next step. I'm going to scroll through my access port to my tune menu. I'm going to enter that, and I'm going to change my map. I'm going to go down and show my current map just to ensure. Real time, it says I've been running the stage 1 ACN 91. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to change map. Now you have 2 options here. One is real-time, temporary upload until the ECU loses power or is reset, or reflash. I'm going to reflash. And I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to stage 1 plus SF ACN 91 octane. It will give you a description of the map that you're about to upload before you upload it. It says intended for otherwise stock 2013 Subaru WRX vehicle with a stock or catback exhaust. I have a stock exhaust, and Cobb tuning SF intake system. Intended for Arizona, California, and Nevada 91 octane fuels. Shows you your boost target there, which is 16 psi, tapered down to 13 by 7,000 RPMs. I'm going to go ahead and click OK for continue. It says the map was changed successfully, and to complete the map change I must turn the ignition key to off. And that's it. You're done.